So I want to I have a prompt here,
Right. Mm.
which got me in a lot of trouble a couple of days ago, right?
Mm.
So I'll tell you the question first, and I'll add a little bit of context. So the question
Sure.
is, do you believe God has a local point in the universe, right?
Mm.
Or do you believe he is non-local, right? Meaning, I suppose I'm kind of leaning into my own biases here, permeating anything and everything, right?
Mm.
So the context behind this is I tweeted a Kurt Thumpling the other day, which in hindsight maybe wouldn't have been the best way to phrase it. And the tweet was something like this, right?
Mm.
It was that um, don't believe in God, believe that you are God,
Mm.
right? And this got found out by some fundamentalist Christians and Muslims, and you can
Mm.
imagine the reception that something like that got. Because
Mm.
and again, I don't want to put words in the mouth of, if you are Christian, if you are a Muslim. I have great reverence for all religions because I believe that there isn't one unique pathway to God. There are many different roads
Mm.
to God. But it is my understanding that most of the what would you say, hate and the derogatory comments that were directed at me in those comments were from people that believe God has a local specific place in
Mm.
the universe. And I was wondering what your thoughts are on this.
Great question. Yes, very interesting. And yeah, so religions in themselves are these wonderful systems, but I believe that all systems are arbitrary, and you
Mm,
can essentially you should have the humility and perhaps the wisdom to pick them up and put them down as and when they serve you for a particular part of your path. So sometimes I lean into Christian ideas. Sometimes I lean into the mystic elements of Islam. I lean heavily into Buddhism, but I'm not attached to any of them. And I
mm,
think really for the viewers out there, one of the core tenets of intelligence, by my own conviction, is the ability to hold multiple contrasting opinions at one time, recognize the validity and the down points of all of them, and don't be attached to any of them.
mm.
Understand you don't really know anything. So, yeah, I mean, right, we don't ultimately. And yeah, as in regards to the actual question, I think what you're saying about the divine permeating through all things is very much in line with my personal experience.
Mm,
And there are certain states of kind of non-duality when you slip into these non-dual states. And what that basically means is when you've got the normal relationship, which is the watcher and the watched, and that is occurring in the field of watching. When that relationship slips away, so your sense of self completely disappears, and you adjust the field.
mhm.
And in this state, it's pretty difficult to say that the building in the distance or the mountain over there is any more me than my little finger is.
Yeah, yeah.
And the underlying feeling in that state is a state of complete and utter love. I'm not talking
Mhm,
about. I'm talking about not a personal love, but a sort of universal love, the love of God.
mhm.
Everything is God.
Yeah.
So I can't. Yes, and I would say even consciousness is non-local
Mhm.
to at a certain point. And with out of body experience, perhaps is a testament to that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I would say that love and God very much non-local. They
Mhm.
permeate everything
I love it. I
by
love it.
nature.
I feel like our insights, our values, our experience are very much aligned in this respect. And
So,
again, the you know the saddest for me is that again, I really do resonate with everything you're saying there, because I mean, we've just had a half an hour talk about attachment and how attachment. I believe it keeps you in Maya, it keeps you in illusion. I really do believe that, and it's been true in my life. And maybe somebody else has their own, dharma or karma to figure out in relation to maybe their religion is actually an attachment, and it's actually taking you away from what you're trying to experience. But
yeah.
I 100%, because I don't want it to feel like I'm saying that religion is not productive or valuable. I certainly
Mm,
believe it is. In fact,
mm,
if I'm gonna have any kind of, you mentioned I like the word leaning into something, right?
mm,
I found some. I mean, I was brought up Catholic, right?
mm,
That just didn't. resonate with me, I found Hinduism, and I leaned into Hinduism so hard. It just clicked for me. That was the perfect route to it. But I would never self-proclaim myself to be a Hindu, right?
No.
I've found some remarkable teachings in Buddhism, in Taoism especially.
Mm.
And I, I couldn't have said it better myself. To the ability to pick some. I mean, I have a Quran in my bedroom that I flick through sometimes as well,
Mm.
and it's remarkable the value and some of the insights from these different ways to reach and actualize God is so. But I do believe there comes a point we have to put the Holy Bible down, we have to put the Bhagavad Gita down, and you have to be still. And that's when I was talking about words only getting you so far, is why I believe some kind of self-reflective practice. And it doesn't have to be meditation. I mean, there's various different forms of meditation. You could talk about Tai Chi, you could talk about Qigong, you can talk about even prayer. Even prayer. I mean, I know in the Islamic faith, prayer is almost like a workout. It's
Mm.
something that you're doing for prolonged periods of time. It's not like a
Mm.
5-minute thing, but you're being present with the experience. You're being present
Mm.
with God.
Mm.
And I look at that as a form of meditation, a form of presence.
100%.
And I believe well, I believe I don't know, but I believe that irrespective of your faith,
Mm.
practices like prayer for the Islamic faith, for meditation with Buddhism, you experience God in those moments. They
Amazing.
experience that oneness. They experience that
Mm.
dropping, you said, of the watched and the watcher,
Mm.
and it's transformative. But if you
100%. Yeah.
believe you're only getting that experience in your faith, I believe you're missing the point.
I completely agree. I completely agree. And a lot of the times, the things that we hold on to, like perhaps, I hate bowling, for example. These are ways of kind of protecting the more fragile elements of our ego, right? It's a form of protection. Ultimately, it's a form of love in some way, but it's this kind of slightly twisted love that perhaps doesn't serve us very well or doesn't manifest very well in the external realm. So yeah, I know. I 100% agree. I think religions are fantastic. I've got absolutely nothing against religions, and I have met many. I've met people of all religions over here. In fact, I met a sort of hardcore Christian guy yesterday in the combini, in the convenience store, and we had a sort of 20-minute conversation in Japanese about going to his sort of place, and he was telling me about this mystical holy place, and they sort of touch you here, and you know, essentially we are all men of God. If you're a mystic, or if you're a Christian, or if you're Islamic, it doesn't matter. We're all men and women of God, and we are seeking that connection with something beyond ourselves. And just that is, I think we can find unity in that rather than separation.
I agree. I
I think
100%
that's
agree.